Ladies and gentlemen, there are moments in life when everything seems to fall apart, when the weight of the world presses down on your shoulders and hope feels like a distant memory. These moments are not pleasant, they're not easy, but they are necessary because nothing great has ever been built without struggle. Hard times are not the end of your story, they are the beginning of your strength. It's in pain that we learn patience. It is in pressure that we develop perseverance. And it is in loss that we learn to value what truly matters. The strongest people you'll ever meet didn't get there by accident. They were forged in the fire. They kept moving when others gave up. They fell and fell again. But every time they got back up, bruised but unbroken. Hard times teach us what comfort never could. They strip away the noise and reveal our real character. When everything is taken from you, you discover what can never be taken. Your grit, your will, your faith. You learn to adapt. You learn to fight. You stop waiting for a way and start making one. And with each challenge, you become someone new, not weaker but wiser, not softer but sharper. This is why you must never fear the storm, because the storm teaches you how to sail. It teaches you who you are when everything else is gone. You realize that rock bottom is not your grave, it's your foundation. The struggle might break your routine, but it builds your resolve. The disappointment may crush your plans, but it carves out your purpose. Pain builds character in a way that comfort never can. It is one of life's most powerful teachers, silently shaping a person's inner strength, resilience, and depth. Pain is not something anyone asks for, yet it finds its way into every life through failure, loss, betrayal, disappointment, or the weight of unmet expectations. It does not ask for permission, and it rarely gives warning. But within pain lies a rare opportunity for growth that can be accessed through easy victories or smooth paths. It strips away the surface and exposes the core, forcing a person to confront who they really are, what they believe, and what they're willing to fight for. When pain arrives, it interrupts comfort. It pushes people into unfamiliar territory, where they can no longer rely on routine or predictability. That disruption, while uncomfortable, is essential for growth. It tears away the illusion of control and forces a deeper level of introspection. People begin asking hard questions about their purpose, values, and priorities. These questions don't often arise during peaceful times because comfort dulls curiosity. But pain awakens the soul. It sharpens awareness and brings clarity that comfort hides. A person in pain becomes more aware of their flaws, more conscious of their strengths, and more connected to the truth of their experience. In the presence of pain, pride is humbled. Ego fades. There is no need to pretend when you are hurting. Pain has a way of stripping down all the masks. This raw vulnerability, though difficult, makes space for authenticity. You learn how to be real. You stop hiding from your feelings and start owning your reality. Through that process, character begins to take shape. Strength, patience, and humility are not inherited traits. They are forged in the furnace of adversity. A person learns endurance not by avoiding hardship, but by surviving it. They develop empathy not by reading about suffering, but by walking through it. These virtues cannot be taught through words alone. They are imprinted through experience. Pain also teaches responsibility. When you go through something difficult and come out the other side, you realize that blaming others or circumstances doesn't heal you. Ownership does. You learn to take control of your reactions, your decisions, and your mindset. Even when you can't control what happened to you, you can control how you respond. That shift in thinking, moving from victimhood to agency, is one of the clearest signs of growing character. It's a quiet form of power, developed not through dominance, but through discipline. Pain makes you choose, collapse under the weight, or rise with more awareness and strength. Time spent in pain also rewires your relationship with fear. Once you've been broken and gotten back up, you no longer fear failure the way you used to. You realize that you're capable of more than you thought. That understanding doesn't come from success. It comes from surviving the worst and still standing. Fear loses its grip because pain already taught you that you can handle being uncomfortable, uncertain, and even heartbroken. This kind of inner strength is not visible to others, but it is the foundation of lasting confidence. It's not arrogance. It's assurance built through struggle. Pain also refines your relationships. When you're hurting, you discover who truly cares, who listens, and who shows up. You learn how to be there for others in ways you never understood before. Pain stretches your capacity for love and compassion. It makes you more patient with people's flaws and more grateful for life's small blessings. These are traits of deep character that emerge not from reading self-help books or achieving goals, but from being brought low and learning to rise with grace. Over time, pain changes the way you see the world. It matures your perspective. What once seemed important may fade in significance. What once seemed unbearable becomes part of your story, something that no longer defines you, but has definitely shaped you. You gain depth. You speak with wisdom. You live with a sense of purpose that doesn't come from pleasure, but from having endured something real. This doesn't mean glorifying suffering, but rather recognizing that pain, though unwelcome, has the potential to grow something in you that nothing else can. Pain builds character because it creates pressure, and pressure reveals what is hidden beneath the surface. It strips, refines, rebuilds, and ultimately strengthens. The process is rarely quick and never easy, but for those who choose to lean into the lessons pain offers, they emerge with something far more valuable than comfort. They emerge with character forged by fire and shaped by truth. Struggle reveals strength in ways that ease never could. It is in the moments of greatest difficulty that a person discovers what they are truly made of. When everything is going well, it's easy to believe that you are strong, focused, and grounded. But the true measure of inner strength doesn't show itself during calm waters. It emerges when the storms come. Struggle strips away comfort, predictability, and control. It introduces chaos, uncertainty, and resistance. And in that space, when nothing feels easy, a deeper layer of strength begins to awaken. When someone is pushed to their limit physically, emotionally, or mentally, they are forced to go beyond the surface of who they think they are. Struggle becomes the mirror that reflects a side of the self that was previously unknown. It shows resilience that hadn't been tapped into, endurance that hadn't been tested, and determination that had been lying dormant. It brings forth the warrior within, not because a person wants to fight, but because survival, purpose, and integrity demand it. Many people live their entire lives trying to avoid struggle, not realizing that it is the path to their true power. Growth happens when there is tension between where you are and where you want to be. Strength doesn't appear overnight. It is carved slowly and painfully through obstacles that seem immovable. Each time a person chooses to keep going, despite the pressure, they are strengthening not only their skills, but their spirit. They are building muscle, mental, emotional, and spiritual, that can't be seen, but can always be felt. That strength becomes part of their identity, a quiet power that doesn't need to be proven, but is always present. Struggle also reveals the strength of values and character. When life is easy, it's simple to say you believe in something, that you stand for something. But when things fall apart, when you're broke alone, betrayed, or lost. Those beliefs are tested. Struggle forces a choice. Abandon what you believe or fight to hold on to it. In that decision, real strength is exposed. Not the strength to control circumstances, but the strength to remain true, grounded, and hopeful when everything else is uncertain. Every setback becomes a test of resolve. Every failure becomes a question. Will you give up or grow up? Struggle becomes the proving ground where perseverance is born. Each challenge requires a person to dig deeper, to find a second wind, to rise when everything in them wants to lie down. That grit, that ability to keep going despite fear or fatigue, is one of the most powerful forms of strength. It's not loud or flashy. It's not always recognized or praised, but it is the kind of strength that changes lives, not just the life of the one who possesses it, but also the lives of those they inspire. In struggle, people also find the strength of perspective. Pain and pressure tend to bring clarity. Suddenly, things that once seemed important lose their shine. Struggle realigns priorities. It strips away superficial pursuits and reveals what really matters: family, purpose, integrity, self-respect. The strength that emerges here is the strength of focus, an ability to move forward with clarity, driven not by ego but by meaning. You stop chasing approval and start chasing purpose. That is the strength of someone who has been refined by adversity. Struggle teaches patience. Nothing grows overnight. Whether it's healing from heartbreak, rebuilding after failure, or fighting through depression, struggle demands time. And in that time, strength is not only built, but sustained. Endurance is strength stretched across days, weeks, even years. To remain hopeful in seasons of waiting is a strength that comfort never teaches. You learn to trust the process, to believe that the fight is not in vain, and to keep showing up even when progress feels invisible. There is also the strength of letting go, of surrendering what can't be controlled, and choosing peace over resistance. Struggle doesn't always mean charging forward. Sometimes it means accepting what is, releasing what was, and embracing what could be. That kind of surrender is not weakness. It is the highest form of strength because it requires humility, courage, and wisdom. Ultimately, struggle reveals the strength that has always been inside, buried beneath layers of comfort, fear, and routine. It awakens a deeper self, one that is capable of far more than imagined. Struggle shapes, molds, and sculpts the human spirit in ways success never. It shows that strength is not about avoiding the hard things, but becoming someone who can rise through them, carry them, and grow because of them. Rock bottom is a foundation because it forces you to confront the truth you've been avoiding, the patterns you've been repeating, and the life you've been tolerating. It's a place where all illusions are stripped away, and you're left with nothing but yourself, your pain, your past, your broken pieces. At first glance, rock bottom feels like the end, a dead end, where everything you relied on has collapsed. But in reality, it's the beginning. It's the ground where real transformation begins, not because you wanted to, but because you have no other choice. When you hit that lowest point, you realize that the only direction left to go is up, and that clarity gives birth to the kind of strength you never knew existed. Rock bottom humbles you. It takes away the need to impress, pretend, or perform. You stop caring about appearances because you're too busy trying to survive. The ego is shattered, and in its place emerges authenticity. You begin to see yourself clearly, not through the lens of others' expectations, but through the raw experience of pain and honesty. And in that honesty, you start to rebuild. You start to redefine what matters. The goals that once seemed important may suddenly feel empty. The relationships that were superficial naturally fall away. The dreams that remain become sharper, more rooted in purpose than in pride. You begin to reconstruct your life not on shallow desires, but on values that are born from experience, loss, and truth. Rock bottom forces decisions. So it removes the luxury of delay and denial. You can't stay passive when you're at your lowest. You either choose to stay down or fight your way out. And in making that choice, you discover your willpower, your hunger to rise, your refusal to be defeated. You begin to create new habits, forge new paths, think new thoughts. The pain you feel becomes fuel for progress. You may not see immediate results, but each day you take a step forward, you're pouring concrete into a new foundation, one built not on convenience, but on character. It also reveals your true support system. When everything is taken from you, your job, your stability, your relationships, you see who stays, who checks in, who reminds you of your worth, even when you feel worthless. And just as importantly, you see who disappears. Rock bottom has a way of filtering your life. It shows you who's real. It teaches you the value of community, of genuine connection, of loyalty. These insights shape your future relationships because now you no longer crave attention, you crave alignment. Rock bottom also cultivates empathy. When you've been broken, you no longer judge others for being broken too. You see pain differently. You listen deeper. You respond with softness instead of superiority. That emotional intelligence becomes part of your foundation. It adds layers to your strength. Compassion, patience, understanding. These are not traits often celebrated in a fast-paced world, but they are essential for a meaningful life. And once you've been at the bottom, you don't climb just to prove a point. You climb so that you can help pull others up too. There's also creative power in rock bottom. In losing everything, you gain the freedom to start over. You're no longer tied to the identity you once had. You're not trapped by expectations anymore. You can explore, experiment, rediscover yourself. That's when innovation happens. Many people who have built powerful legacies started from rock bottom, not because they had resources, but because they had nothing to lose. That kind of clarity and desperation leads to bold moves, to courageous decisions, to dreams that are too important to abandon. You become less afraid of failure because you've already faced it. You become less attached to perfection because you've already felt brokenness. And over time, rock bottom becomes a memory, not one of shame, but of pride. You look back and realize that was the place where your old self died and your real self was born. You remember the nights you cried, the mornings you didn't want to wake up, the battles you fought silently. And then you see how far you've come, not because life became easier, but because you became stronger. Rock bottom didn't destroy you. It introduced you to the version of yourself that was buried underneath doubt, fear, and pretense. It became the solid ground upon which you rebuilt not just your life, but your identity, your faith, your purpose. Resilience is forged in pressure because it is not a trait that is inherited or gifted. It is developed through struggle, tested in chaos, and proven in adversity. Pressure has a way of revealing what lies beneath the surface. It strips away comfort and demands something deeper from within. In times of pressure, when the weight of expectations, responsibilities, or hardship seems unbearable, people are forced to tap into strength they didn't know they had. It is in those moments when everything seems to be falling apart that resilience begins to take shape. Not in the absence of difficulty, but in the presence of it. Pressure creates discomfort, and discomfort creates growth. Without pressure, there is no need to stretch, adapt, or change. Everything stays predictable and safe. But when pressure hits, when circumstances challenge your stability, confidence, or beliefs, you begin to change. That change isn't immediate. It's slow, difficult, and often painful. But it is essential. Every obstacle you face under pressure becomes a lesson in perseverance. Each time you are knocked down and choose to get back up, your resilience strengthens. You learn that failure is not final, that fear can be overcome, and that the human spirit is capable of far more than it often realizes. There is a reason why some of the most remarkable stories of strength come from those who have experienced immense pressure, loss, trauma, rejection, poverty, heartbreak. These individuals didn't become resilient because they avoided pain. They became resilient because they endured it, processed it, and rose from it. The pressure they faced didn't break them, it built them. It forced them to dig deeper, to find meaning, and to fight when giving up felt easier. Resilience isn't about being unaffected by struggle. It's about being changed by it in a way that makes you wiser, stronger, and more prepared for the road ahead. In moments of pressure, clarity often emerges. When everything is on the line and the distractions of life fall away, people begin to see what truly matters. Priorities shift, values sharpen. What once seemed important begins to fade, and what truly holds meaning becomes clear. Thus, mental and emotional clarity becomes part of resilience. It allows people to move forward with purpose, not just in spite of difficulty, but because of it. They're not just surviving anymore, they're evolving. Resilience is also forged in pressure, because pressure forces choices. When faced with pressure, you must decide whether to crumble or to push forward. This decision doesn't happen once. It happens again and again. Each time you choose to rise, even slightly, you are reinforcing a mindset that becomes more unshakable over time. The mind begins to learn that pressure is not the enemy, but the process. You stop fearing challenges and begin embracing them as opportunities to prove your strength. Pressure also teaches flexibility. When one path is blocked, resilience is what allows you to find another. It doesn't mean you avoid frustration or failure, but you adapt, you adjust your plans, your mindset, your approach. This mental flexibility is what keeps people moving when others quit. They understand that setbacks are not the end, they're detours. Pressure forces you to become resourceful, to think creatively, to develop patience. And in doing so, it expands your capacity to handle even greater pressure in the future. One of the most powerful aspects of resilience built under pressure is that it becomes a part of your identity. It's not just something you do, it's who you become. You begin to see yourself differently, not as a victim of your circumstances, but as a product of your perseverance. That self-perception fuels confidence, not arrogance, but the quiet kind of confidence that says, I've been through worse and I'm still here. That mindset can't be taught in a classroom or read in a book. It has to be earned through experience. Over time, the pressure that once felt suffocating becomes familiar. It doesn't get easier, but you get stronger. You begin to trust your ability to handle life's uncertainties. You no longer fear every storm because you remember how you survived the last one. That memory becomes your anchor, reminding you that your strength was not accidental. It was forged, tested, refined, and strengthened in the heat of real pressure. And that strength born from hardship becomes a foundation for every challenge that follows. Every challenge shapes your future because it introduces you to the parts of yourself that remain hidden in comfort. Life is full of turning points, and challenges are often the catalysts that push you toward those defining moments. Whether it's a personal loss, a career setback, a broken relationship, or a health crisis, challenges are not merely disruptions in the flow of life. They are instruments of transformation. They arrive unexpectedly, uninvited, and often unwanted, but they carry within them the potential to change your mindset, sharpen your vision, and redirect your path. It's in the heart of difficulty that you discover new strengths, new priorities, and a new sense of identity that can shape your future in ways you never imagined. Challenges break routine. They interrupt the rhythm of life and force reflection. When you face adversity, you're no longer on autopilot. You begin to question your beliefs, your decisions, and your direction. This questioning is the birthplace of clarity. It helps you examine what truly matters and what has merely been filling space. Often people go through life following patterns without ever pausing to assess whether those patterns serve them. A challenge disrupts that flow and forces a reevaluation. That process of reassessment becomes the foundation for change. It plants seeds of growth that with time and effort begin to shape a future built on conscious intention rather than unconscious habit. When you're pushed to your limits, you either discover or develop new capabilities. Challenges stretch your capacity to think, feel, and respond. They demand creativity when the obvious answers don't work. They require resilience when quitting feels easier. Every moment of struggle adds another layer of grit, of discipline, of emotional intelligence. You learn how to manage stress, how to navigate uncertainty, and how to stay grounded when the world around you feels unstable. These skills don't just help you survive the current challenge. They become assets that you carry forward. They prepare you for future opportunities by making you stronger, more adaptable, and more aware. There's also a deeper emotional evolution that happens during challenges. They have a way of opening your heart and expanding your empathy. Pain makes you more attuned to the pain of others. Failure makes you less judgmental and more understanding. Through your own suffering, you gain a deeper appreciation for kindness, support, and humanity. This emotional maturity becomes part of your future interactions. It shapes how you lead, how you love, how you listen. It influences your decisions not just for yourself, but in service to others. It turns pain into purpose and experience into wisdom. Challenges also teach patience and timing. In a world that glorifies instant results, adversity reminds you that real change takes time, that some things can't be rushed, that there is value in the process even when it's slow, painful, and unclear. Learning to endure the wait, to stay committed when results aren't visible, shapes your character in profound ways. It prepares you to handle long-term goals, delayed rewards, and uncertain outcomes. The patience you build now becomes essential when you pursue something meaningful later. Every challenge also exposes your relationships for what they truly are. Hard times reveal who's loyal, who's supportive, who believes in you even when you're at your lowest. They also expose toxic ties, those who vanish when you're no longer useful or agreeable. This awareness helps you curate your circle moving forward. You begin to build a future surrounded by people who uplift, not drain, who invest in your growth, not just your convenience. The community you choose after a challenge is often more aligned with your values because the struggle revealed what you truly need and deserve. Even failure, one of the most difficult challenges, plays a vital role in shaping your future. When you fail, you're forced to re-examine your strategy, your effort, and your mindset. That feedback, though painful, is valuable. It teaches you what not to do. It helps you identify weaknesses, not as flaws, but as areas for growth. Failure sharpens your focus and deepens your hunger for improvement. Those who rise after falling often achieve more than those who never faced resistance because their success is built on a foundation of learned lessons. Every challenge becomes a chapter in the story of who you're becoming. Each one leaves a mark, not a scar to be ashamed of, but a signal of transformation. It's not about avoiding challenges, but about using them as stepping stones. They are not roadblocks to your destiny, but the very tools that carve the road to it. The struggles you face today are shaping the wisdom, the courage, the perseverance, and the clarity you'll need for the future you're meant to build. So as we stand here today, let us remember this truth, that comfort may feel safe, but it never leads to greatness. That pressure, pain, and struggle aren't punishments. They're invitations to grow, to evolve, to become more. Every challenge, every failure, every low point isn't the end of your story. It's the beginning of a new chapter. You were not made to live small, safe, and silent. You were made to rise, to overcome, and to lead. Yes, hard times will come. Yes, you will fall. But if you dare to get back up, if you dare to step beyond your comfort zone, you will discover strength, vision, and purpose beyond anything you've ever known. So walk forward with courage. Welcome the pressure. Embrace the pain. Let every challenge shape you. Because in the fire of adversity, the strongest version of you is being forged. And that version, that unstoppable, unshakable you, is exactly what the world is waiting for. Thank you.